This is a new pet project I've been working on for a while now. uh, my name is Britton, and Jacob, would you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Jacob. Jacob Hogue.
We're both movie fans, and we wanted to uh, start a podcast. I've been actually wanting to do this for a while. Basically, the idea is I get a friend of mine who likes movies as much as I do, and we talk about movies, just one anyway. Basically, the whole thing is we pick one movie a week. I pick one, then he picks one. The only real rules, we both have seen it beforehand. Um, I'm probably gonna say a lot, so get ready for that. But this is the first episode, and just gonna introduce myself real quick. I'm Britton. I like movies. I've written movie reviews on Letterboxd and IMDb, though I much prefer doing it on Letterboxd because it's easier. But it's been a long time coming now, and my friend Jacob here, I invited him because we talk about movies all the time. And, well, Jacob, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. First off, thanks for inviting me. I'm Jacob, and I'm a film buff as well. And I do movie reviews on Letterboxd, written reviews on Letterboxd. And I have over 600 followers on there, which I'm like shocked by. And my reviews, mostly, they're just like really short to the point. And yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say his are much more shorter than mine. I tend to be a little more wordy. But his reviews are pretty good for the most part. So, yeah.
Thank you.
So today we're discussing a movie that we both have seen, and we both agreed that, you know what, this film actually is worth talking about. And it's The Green Knight, as you can tell from our screen recording, from our screen here. Please forgive the flaccid image. Hopefully our conversation will be at least intriguing enough to listen to while we're at it. So, but this movie came out in July out here in the States. Just recently came out in the UK, from what I heard. It said it was going to be on Prime, and I'm like, ooh, I get to see it again. And I went to go check it, and it wasn't there. That was just for the UK folks. So, you guys are so spoiled out in United Kingdom. I bet Tig's happy about that.
Oh, yeah.
I was harassing him the other day. I'm like, God, dude, you got to go see this movie.
He hasn't seen it yet?
No, he hasn't, because it hadn't come out on his side of the Atlantic. Well, until now, and he's like, I'm gonna watch it with my brother, dude. It's fine. So it's like, all right, have fun with it. But yeah, The Green Knight is a fantasy movie. From David Lowery of A Ghost Story and Old Man and the Gun fame, which, by the way, I also like those movies. Lowery is one of those directors who just kind of goes back and forth from making pretty good genre films, and then he'll just go off and make these like really weird experimental films, and The Green Knight is just one of them.
Yeah.
I mean,
Big time.
yeah, like he'll do something like Peach Dragon or Old Man the Gun, which is like, your good old fashioned genre movie, and then he'll just go out and do something just this weird out there type of thing like this film or A Ghost Story, which I also recommend. That's also a good movie.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone though.
Excellent
movie. It's like this one, and I'll just give my verdict on The Green Knight real quick before we really get into discussing it, but I really enjoyed this film. Might be my favorite movie of this year so far. It's just an entrancing, weird, strange. I could come up with a lot of adjectives, but I won't waste you guys' time. But basically, in short, I really enjoyed this. What about you, Jacob?
Same with you. I really enjoy this movie as well. I think it's my favorite movie of 2021 so far. It's a tie between this and Shang-Chi for me. I think I'll put Green Knight just a tad bit higher. But yeah, this movie is very spellbinding and just, it sucks you in. Like, it's like, the first time I saw it, I was like really excited. And judging from the trailers, I thought it was just going to be your typical, like, really fun night movie. But it was way more than that. After I left the theater, I just drove home in silence, just thinking about the movie. I'm still thinking about the movie. Like, it's just an excellent movie overall. Performances, visually, it's stunning. It's hidden themes, and it's really, you can, once you, like, watch it multiple times, you can really, like, see what the movie was trying to do.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, like...
I want to see it again.
It's a great movie overall.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I want to see it again.
Oh, yeah. I need to see it again, because I really want to... I need to see it again.
It's one of those movies I want to buy now and just, like, watch it, because I heard it's coming on DVD soon, so I hope that works out well. Funny story about when I went to go see this film. I went to go see it with my dad. My dad and I kind of make it a thing where we go see movies, and, you know, sometimes he enjoys, sometimes we enjoy them, sometimes I like it more than he does, and you can imagine this was one of those movies where I liked it more than he did. I kind of felt bad taking him in here, because he was just kind of watching it, and he just did not get it at all, and I was loving it, but he was just kind of, like, sitting there like, what the hell is going on here? But also, we almost walked into the wrong movie. We almost walked into Old from M. Night Shyamalan, which was not a movie that looked interesting to me. It was in, like, this really small theater, and there was, like, this dude sitting next to us, and he was, like, breathing really heavily, and my dad was getting all... He was just sitting next to him, and it was just... Luckily, that didn't really, like, deter me. Like, I've been pretty lucky to have, like, not very many bad theater experiences. Like, I've had a couple of ones. Like, when I saw Spectre a few years ago, like, there were some girls who were, like, you know, talking audibly, and then some guy just yelled, "Shut up," at them.
Oh.
You know, but... But aside from that, usually everyone, like, is quiet, and, like, no one's... Like, I haven't had any, like, Chris Stuckman type of experiences where I need to make a video and rant about
poor
it.
Chris.
Poor Chris, yeah. But, yeah, so after a minute, we found the right theater, and we caught the movie just as it was starting, and, my God, was it quite a ride from there on out. My dad, again, was just kind of like, what was that? And, you know, I just really enjoyed it. And, yeah, I just enjoyed it for the most part. My dad didn't, sadly, though. I would say, but don't worry, I did make it up to him by taking him to see Shang-Chi, and we both loved that one, so, you know, I think it all evened out. Shang-Chi, which is another great movie, which I hope to talk about soon on this little thing, because I also really enjoyed that.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, The Green Knight is... Oh, man. It's quite the experience. And,
it really is.
I'm not even gonna lie, I'm not even into Arthurian myth all that much. It's just... I don't know, I've just never found myself all that intrigued by it. It's like, you know, just one of those things where it's like, oh, it's the good old boys going out and going on adventures and fun time and, you know, pulling a sword out of a stone. But this movie doesn't quite do... It's kind of like, okay, it's like, okay, we know the myths, but it's like, here's like a more real-world version of these characters. Like, here's what they could have been like if they actually existed.
Yes.
Which is probably one of my favorite parts of this movie. It's that it feels... Like, the world feels real, and it feels lived in, and there's, like, people who, like, live in it and are just like, hey, going on with their lives. You know, I don't know. What do you think, Jacob?
I agree with you. Like, it does feel realistic. it doesn't feel like a fictional fantasy film. It definitely feels like something that's like it. It definitely feels like something that's like in real life, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, like it could be real.
Yeah, it's not like where it's like, oh yeah, that person's like casting this spell or something, or shooting like magical beams out of their hands.
That would have been kind of a jarring tone change. Just like Morgan Le Fay or something just comes out and is like and just like gets lightning out of her fingers like Star Wars.
Yeah,
that would have been kind of weird. But yeah, this film is kind of like This film is kind of like, okay, we've heard the legends, but this is kind of an idea on like what could have actually happened if this thing, was real. And, kind of running into that, I kind of liked the decrepit, almost haunting atmosphere of the night, the round table. This is an older King Arthur.
Oh, yeah.
This is an older Guinevere. They're kind of past their prime. They're sickly. They're kind of thin.
Yes.
Which is funny. They got Keith Dickey from The Witch and Game of Thrones, a.k.a. Aunt Titty Milk from Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah.
We also got another Witch alumni with Ralph Ineson, which that's a whole other subject. We'll get into that in a minute. But, so basically, So we've rambled on a little bit, but basically the story of this movie is based off of a poem of the same name called Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Basically the idea of this film, which is kind of what intrigued me to begin with, it's the idea that this green is that one day while King Arthur and his knightly circle are having lunch or whatever they're doing, they're celebrating Christmas, I think, in the original story, like in this movie. They get visited by this green behemoth. Excuse me. This green behemoth, and he has a sword, or no, is it an axe? He has an axe in the movie. I don't remember in the originals. I've read the original story, which I think it's also an axe in the story as well. But let's just talk about the movie. The movie, he has an axe. He says, "Okay, strike me once, and in a year I'll strike you back." In kind. So, we got Gawain. In this movie, he is the nephew of King Arthur. He decides that he's going to take this Jolly Green Giant's proposition and cuts his head off. And he's a little confused. He's like, oh, okay. And then he gets up, to everyone's horror, he gets up, picks up his head, and says, 1 year, and then rides off laughing maniacally. And that's basically the movie. Gawain going on this journey to try and find this thing, whatever it is, and it's quite a ride. It's not really your typical fantasy adventure. It becomes more of a psychological journey, which makes it much more which makes it far more intriguing and far more interesting to me, anyway.
It does.
I mean, Dev Patel is in this movie. We got Thomas Harris as King Arthur. Again, Keith Dickey, as I mentioned. We got Ralph Ineson as the Green Knight, which I'm about to gush over in a few minutes. We got a couple of other actors. We got Joel Edgerton, who, basically they got the all-star cast in this movie. Also, Barry Keoghan from The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which I didn't like very much, but Barry Keoghan was pretty good in this film. So, but they got the all-star cast in this movie. It's A24.
They really did.
Yeah, they're just great like we're getting all the A24 people, and we're just gonna hey, go nuts, buddy. But
we're not playing around with the cast.
We're not playing around at all. But yeah, this film is not easy to grasp it for. I wouldn't say it's difficult. It's not like a Shane Carruth movie where it's like a fucking puzzle the entire time. You have to figure out what's going on. But it is a film that's not for everyone. No. Again, like I mentioned before, my dad was just... He was not into it, and I was like, this is great. And my dad's just like, yeah, this is weird. What'd you drag me to, Dad? What'd you drag me into this time, Britton? But this film is just... I think the best word I can come up for this movie is it's engrossing.
Yes.
It just sucks you in immediately. Just from the atmosphere, the cinematography... the music, just everything just sucks you in, and you're just like, oh my god, this is amazing. Even when there's like, even though there's not that much action, it's like, it just sucks you in with just the world it shows. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Jacob, again. What were you saying?
I heard. It's very hypnotic. It's a very hypnotic movie.
Exactly, yes. It's just one of those movies that it just sucks you in, and it doesn't let you go. It's a psychological journey. It's a guy growing up. When I first left the movie, I kind of thought it was a pretty simple story about a guy overcoming his fear. In my opinion, there's a couple of interpretations you could come out of with this movie, but mine was just about this guy conquering his fear. And learning what it
exactly what I thought.
And learning what it actually means to be a honorable knight. Because that kind of gets questioned in this movie. Like, what is honorable, you know? What is the right thing to do? And in this game, and in this movie, this game is kind of twisted. And it is kind of twisted in the original story, but in this one, it's kind of a twisted game. Because it's like this thing, we don't know where it comes from. You know, it doesn't really matter where this... It doesn't really matter where this thing comes from. But it's just like, you know, okay, come strike me. And in a year, I'll pay you back in kind. And... Again, it just goes into another... I feel like I'm repeating myself. Do you have any extra thoughts to put on this, Jacob?
I was just about you. Like, the whole story being very simple. Very simplistic, like a man overcoming his fears. But it was a lot more than just that. I would say it was mainly about that, but there was a lot more to it. Discovering, like, who he is and, like, if, like, this decision that he makes will end up with the consequences, which, like, we see after when the Green Knight is, like, about to, like, decapitate him, he just runs off and goes back home, and then we see what the outcomes would have been if he would have like just been cowardly and just like ran off.
Oh,
and
yeah.
At the ending of the movie, we see him like take off the belt that Alicia, I forget her name. She played Tomb Raider.
Yeah. She's with Michael Fassbender in real life.
Yes.
I forget her name. It's like Alicia Vikander or something. I don't know. I don't remember her name in the movie either. She also plays she also played Joel Edgerton's wife, woman, whatever she is. Which that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
This movie's a little crazy. Not in the way you'd expect. It's not like Fast and Furious kind of crazy, but it's a different...
No, where it's just like dumb. No, it's like crazy in the like thought-provoking way.
Yeah, it's like, what is going on? I think the audience is supposed to. I think the audience is supposed to be like Gawain, where he's just like, what is going on here? This is so weird.
Yes.
Probably those mushrooms he ate. What do you think? It's probably those mushrooms he ate, you know, on the mountain.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what those mushrooms were. I think maybe that's what kind of like made him like hallucinate, make him see like these weird things, like the ghost girl when he was like going to the house to like kind of like spend the night in, just to find some shelter.
Oh man, I was about to say that's probably my favorite sequence of the whole movie. Aside from, like, the last, like, what if he ran off sequence. Like, that's probably my favorite part of the movie, is when he helps the girl. I
would say mine, too.
Yeah, I mean, it's not to skip around a little bit, but the Winifred scene, I think it's Winifred, I think that's her name, the ghost, basically, the headless ghost. I had a friend of mine who said this was the Hellboy movie that we deserved before I went to go see it. And
Yeah.
after, I don't know if anyone's read the Hellboy comics, at least, or have seen the movie. I haven't seen the movies. I am reading the comics right now. But basically, the Winifred scene, like, that is straight out of a Hellboy comic. Like, that is something Hellboy would get himself into. Except in this movie, he's not, our main character isn't a wisecracking guy who's just tired of all the bullshit. He's kind of this scared younger guy who's just bumbling around, and he gets into situations, and yeah, that's basically it. But yeah, I'd agree with that sentiment. I'm like, I remember after I left the movie, I texted him, I'm like, dude, you were right. I'm like, why didn't the Hellboy people make it the movie like this? But anyway, but yeah, probably the Winifred scene, the one where the knight actually challenges Gawain to do it, and the final scene, or not the final scene, but like the final montage, which again we'll get into.
Yes.
But yeah, those are probably my favorite scenes of the whole movie. It's just
mine too.
I mean, they're so good. You're like, oh god, it's
like the whole atmosphere and and like you said, the cinematography, the music, the score.
Oh my god,
it really sinks you in.
It's just like it's like everything was working. It's like they were just like, yeah, we're on a roll here, and apparently,
everything.
I had read that David Lowery, because this movie was supposed to come out last year before Corona Chan showed up and ruined everything.
Oh yeah.
Apparently David Lowery saw it, because he edits his movies too, at least from time to time. He saw the cut he had, and he's like, well, this sucks. I'm gonna change it. And he apparently changed it over the couple of months that coronavirus was up and wrecking everybody in sight. And man, he really did a great job with what he managed to do. I don't know what the original cut looked like. I'm sure it might have just been a similar project, and he probably just looked at it and was like, well, this sucks. I could do better. But yeah, he did a great job. Just, again, everything seemed to be working in... It was like a well-clocked machine. It was just like...
Yes, it really was.
Oh my god. So good.
David Lowery, he did an excellent job directing this movie. This is my favorite, film from him. Initially, it was A Ghost Story, which I really thought was excellent. And I haven't seen Old Man with a Gun yet. I plan on to, though. Pete's Dragon, I thought was a really good movie. Thought was way better than the animated version, the original. But, yeah, with The Green Knight, I think he outdid himself with this film.
Oh yeah, he put his all into this one, and
he really did.
I mean, apparently he's gonna be doing yet another fantasy adventure. He's remaking Peter Pan.
Yeah,
which I again, I guess that's him going back to his sort of, he likes to go back and forth for making these weirder art house pieces, and then he'll make more standard, fun movies. Which isn't bad,
yeah.
He tends to do pretty good most of the stuff I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious to see what he'll do with Peter Pan.
Oh yeah,
and
it's gonna be interesting.
And hopefully he can correct some of the more not great things about the original animated movie. Even though it's a good movie, but there's some things in it that let's just say have not aged well.
No. Most of the things that haven't held up well are pretty cheesy.
It's pretty well animated. I'm just talking about the depiction of Native Americans. This is not great in that movie.
The rest for me, they were pretty cheesy.
Well, yeah, I don't think it was meant to be offensive, but it just kind of it's ooh, it's like when you watch it's like watching. Oh man, I can't even think of it at the moment. It's like watching a movie and you're like, oh, it's pretty good, and it just gets to a part that just doesn't age well, or more modern era, and you're just like, oh, that just Yeah,
yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious to see what he does with this. But back to The Green Knight. But, well, I should say, with The Green Knight, that should be of interest, because this film is just, again, it's magnificent.
Oh, yeah. Excellent.
I suppose we should stop beating around the bush and just, like, talk about, like, spoilery stuff, like the themes of this movie, which we've already touched upon a little bit. Stuff that happens in this movie.
Spoilers.
So yeah, we're gonna spoil the shit out of this movie.
Spoiler warning.
A little side note before we do this. I'm a little disappointed that Chris hasn't, like, touched this film yet. We both really like Chris Stuckman. Like, damn.
I'm disappointed, too.
Because he's reviewed other David Lowery movies. Like, he reviewed a Ghost Story. Maybe he just hadn't caught it or something. I don't know, but...
Probably.
And plus, he's kind of changed... He's made, like, big changes to his channel, so... But it looked like something I thought would interest him. Oh, what? What'd you say? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. Maybe he just didn't like it. Maybe that's why he didn't review it, because he has said, like, he's not going to, like, talk about movies that he didn't like.
Yeah. He wasn't gonna... He wasn't gonna talk smack about movies he doesn't like anymore. Yeah. Which is fine. I get that entirely. It's like, that's part of my... I try not to criticize too harshly, because I'm just one of those guys who gives people the benefit of the doubt and is like, okay, you know, he probably put his all into this. I mean, there's obviously films like that Bloodshot movie's the first one that comes to mind. That's obviously a piece of crap, and you can tell that people didn't really think much about it. But I tend to think that people, like, put effort into their movies, for the most part. And sometimes they succeed, and sometimes they fail. But I'm getting off topic. Again. But The Green Knight, David Lowery was not slouching with this.
He was not playing around. Like,
he's just like,
he was not, like...
What were you saying?
Yeah, he was not playing around with this film. Like, the cast, cinematography, his direction, atmosphere, as we said before. Yeah, he really put his all into this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's even stuff like the music, which, I mean... Oh, man, there's so much stuff I could gush about this movie. And I don't know how long this is going to be, but it's like, oh, my man. Oh, God. This is going to be a fun one to talk about. So, all right, let's get into, like, the actual meat of this movie. So, basically, we got Gawain, played by Dev Patel, which I hope you can see on my screen here. That's who's pictured here. He plays Gawain. Very different. I'm surprised people weren't whining about, he's not white, this is an English story. And, you know, he's an Indian. He's an Indian-British guy. And, you know, I kind of feel for Dev Patel. He's kind of had an odd career, to say the least. Like, he's one of those actors, kind of like Tim Roth, who made a couple of good movies, then he kind of vanishes, and then he'll, like, come back and make some, like, fun films. He'll come back and make, like, good movies from time to time. Basically, the same thing happened to Dev Patel. Like, he made Slumdog Millionaire, which blew up. Also a good movie, if you've never seen it. And then he kind of vanished for a little bit, and now he's back with, like, The Green Knight, and he's really good in this movie.
Oh, yeah. I would say this is his best performance, like, right next to Slumdog Millionaire. Like, he is really great in this movie.
Oh yes. He captures the kind of cockiness of the character. Yes. He captures the kind of not really the innocence, because he's like a 20-something-year-old man, but he captures kind of the naivete a little bit. The David Lowery said in a couple of interviews I remember watching of this movie, because I ended up getting obsessed with this for a little while. He said that this is a bit of a coming-of-age story, and that's very much true. This is a guy coming into his own a bit.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Dev captured that pretty well.
Yeah, that's not an easy thing to pull off.
Yeah, it's not. Like, it's, you know, and it's not... His character can make frustrating decisions, and you're just like, what the hell are you doing? But, you know, he makes it relatable. Like, he has this kind of... You know, you still want to root for him, even though he makes these kind of weird choices in the movie.
Yes. It reminded me of his like dumb decisions that he would make in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of reminded me of Uncut Gems, where
Oh,
Adam
yeah.
Sandler he's making these decisions that's he's digging himself in a deeper grave, but Adam Sandler playing that character, he has like this charm factor that he just had working for him, and it made you root for him. Same with Dev Patel and The Green Knight. The decisions that he made were extremely frustrating, but you were still rooting for him because you wanted him to succeed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're just like, I mean, obviously he's the main character, so you kind of want him to be at least likable. I mean, yeah, there's unlikable protagonists out there, but there's like that. It has to be something to latch onto, and yes. I think Dev Patel did pretty well in that regard. Like, there's some decisions he makes where you're just like, what the hell are you doing? Dude is obviously gonna rob you. Talking about that scene with the guys at the battlefield, which that's probably the only thing that was just kind of what this dude is obviously like scamming you. To get the fuck away from that guy.
Yeah, screw you. Let me go on my adventure.
Exactly. That was probably the only bit where I was like, okay, I kind of have an idea where this is going. He's gonna get robbed by this guy. And then he gets robbed by the guy, and it's like, oh, should have rode away. But,
Yeah.
So, basically, in this, so, we start out, we meet Gawain, and he's kind of this, young punk, He's our age, basically, so he's kind of this punk. He likes whoring around and, doing what young people at that time did, which... again, I'm not, forgive my ignorance, but I'm sure they did not have a lot of things to do like we do now. So.
Yeah.
But the Gawain in this movie, he's a bit lusty, he likes women, he likes having a good time, he likes getting drunk at bars.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a good intentioned guy. I'll give him that. Like, he does make mistakes in this movie, but he's not like a malicious person. He's kind of like he wants to be a good guy.
Yeah.
He just hasn't grown yet in that way. Maybe I'm giving him benefit of the doubt because he does make some dumb decisions in this movie. But they make sense. It's not like he's some evil guy like ha ha ha. I am.
Yeah.
I am evil.
No, he's not like that.
But no, like, he's a good-intentioned guy. He's afraid, which I think is his biggest hurdle throughout this movie.
Yes.
It's very subtle. Like, he's not... Like, he's one of those guys, like, he is afraid of this fight, but he doesn't want to admit that he's afraid. He's just kind of, he's just trying to be... He's trying to keep his honor... amongst these, like, knights. All of these, bad... He's like the kid in the group. All these badasses. They might make fun of him. And he's like, I want to be like those guys. And he doesn't want to show fear, because then they'll be like, ha, you're afraid of that tree guy? You wimp.
He's not like...
What were you saying?
Oh, yeah, he's not like that. Where, he doesn't, like, as you said, he doesn't show his, like, afraidness. If David Lowery would have went in that direction where he was just like a coward throughout the movie, not wanting to just always second guessing everything and all that, then this movie wouldn't have worked. But they did make him that character that he is afraid but doesn't really want to show it.
Yeah, I like it. It's kind of, he's conflicted, I think, throughout the whole movie. He's just kind of, he's nervous, of course you'd be if your head's about to get chopped off. I mean, come on now. That's natural.
Run away from that.
Don't be a pussy. You're just gonna get your head chopped off. Not like you're gonna die.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be a quick death, though.
Yeah, no, but, I like Dev plays it well. You can tell that he's afraid, but you can also see that he's, trying to hide it. Some really good acting by him. I gotta say. I think so.
That's why I think it's his best performance.
Oh, yeah, there's the bar scene where it's like, oh, you cut off the Green Knight, huh? You do the challenge. And he's all like, no, I'm not. And he's, like, trying to play it off, too, and he's, like, just being like, no, man, no, that's no big deal, you know, just give him a little snip.
Yeah.
A little plus of this movie, dialogue in this movie. Even though this film is very visual heavy, I quite enjoy the dialogue of this movie. It kind of feels like a poem come to life, which is what I said in, like, my little blurb thought of the whole thing, which it is based off of a poem. Actually own it over here. But it's basically like an epic poem brought to life. It's like a myth lost through time. And only now we've just discovered it. And I know it's an adaptation of an Arthurian legend and blah, blah, blah. I don't care. This film just feels like a lost myth.
Absolutely. And
I'm going off of tracking it. What was I talking about? Was I talking about Dev Patel again?
Yeah, about his performance.
Oh, yeah. Dev Patel is great in this, for the most part. Again, the character of Gawain, a lot of people are like, he basically fails all of his honor stuff. And he does. But I don't think it's like because he's like some selfish asshole. I think it's just because he's kind of naive. And he doesn't understand it yet, even though he's like in his 20s. He has like an idea, but he hasn't really, had the experience yet. And this movie is where he gets that experience.
Yes, I've read a lot of Letterboxd reviews, like people like mostly talking about Dev Patel's performance and how he's like, always like fucking up and all that. But like, he's like, he is like still young and naive, and he's still like learning about who he is and discovering himself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's just a young guy. Like, you don't remember when you were like in your early 20s. I mean, I am in my early 20s right now. I mean, I'm not going on fantasy adventures, but I mean, you're not always you're not all together yet, and it's kind of a thing with life. You'll never be. It's kind of a continuing journey, but man, Dev Patel, kind of, it's like, have you been young before? Do you remember what that's like? I remember when I was a teenager. I made a bunch of dumb decisions.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
I didn't have it all together yet. I'm still living with my parents. Like, I've made bad choices. I probably make bad choices every day of my life.
Yeah.
And, Gawain is the same way. He's just the guy who, he just hasn't experienced life too much yet. He's been kind of, I don't want to say pampered, but he's been fortunate. His mom, and, he's been well loved by his mom, in her way anyway. We'll get into that. And, his uncle's King freaking Arthur, so, you got a little chip on your shoulder there. But again, on this adventure, he learns a little.
Yeah, it is like a coming of age story as well.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, another great scene in the movie is where another great example of Dev's performance, where he's trying to show fear, but he's not. He's trying to hide it at the same time. We got one where King Arthur actually visits him, and it's Sean Harris in the role. And again, he plays King Arthur very differently. This is a past his prime Arthur, which I really liked in this movie. Kind of goes back to that decrepit. Everything feels kind of aged. It feels lived in. It feels like there's an actual world here. There's normal people who live in it. And we see King Arthur come in, and he is still the King Arthur of the stories. He has this kind of warm presence, about him. He tries to inspire his people. And Sean Harris really brings that to the role. He usually plays, like, creepy and sinister characters, which,
yes.
I'm just going to say, I'm sure that was purposeful, because his character is, despite the fact he does have that warmth of King Arthur, there's just something kind of wrong.
Yes.
Which is another thing I'll bring up about this film. There's, like, this sense of dread throughout this movie. I don't know if you got it. Maybe you did. I don't know if anyone else got that, but when I saw this film, like, there's especially some scenes, it felt like a horror movie.
Oh, I would agree on that, 100%.
like, there's some scenes that are just, like, really creepy at points. And you're just like, this is weird. I'm a little uncomfortable right now.
No, especially the scene, the decapitated ghost scene.
Oh yeah.
Felt like a horror.
Oh yeah, and the Green Knight scene where he shows up, like that, like there's definitely some horror elements in there.
Yes, which is one of my favorite aspects of the movie.
Oh yes, like there's some like creepy scenes in this film, like it's really good, and again like Kate Dickie, again she kind of also captures that warmth of Guinevere, but you know she's just one of those people like I know this is super shallow, but she kind of has that look where there's something off there.
Yes.
Like, if she, like, was in an alleyway and asked you to follow her, you'd be like, I'll keep walking, thank you.
Yes.
Same, they're not really with Sean Harris. Sean Harris looks like a normal guy. Though he can play sinister characters very well. But there's, like, this sinister dread throughout this movie.
There really...
Which I don't think was an accident.
No.
I mean... The whole movie is basically a build-up to this confrontation with this Green Knight figure. And, but back to what I was talking about. There's a scene where, you know, we get to see Dev playing it off. He's trying not to be afraid, but he is afraid, and he actually admits it. He's like, you know what, I'm kind of nervous about this. And, you know, King Arthur, I forget exactly what he says, but he kind of just goes like, well, you know, you gotta do this, man. You know, don't be afraid. And then there's this little great line he says, and he says, I have a toothache. He likes grabbing at his tooth, and you're just like, huh. You know, it's funny, you know, this iconic character of legend just talking about having a tooth. I don't know why, that just got to me for some reason. I'm weird.
It was so simple, but it was, like, hilarious.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, it's like, he's a person, you know? Like, he has his problem, you know, this larger-than-life figure, like, they're making him into, like, a regular guy, you know? He's like, yeah, I pulled Excalibur out of the sword, but I can still get sick.
Yeah. It made his character and Dev's performance more realistic.
Oh, yes, most definitely. And you can tell there's kind of a fatherly-like affection towards, Gawain.
Yeah.
Which, you know, you can definitely see throughout the movie. It's kind of a motif. Well, not really a motif. A motif in the movie is honor. But again, we'll get into that. We'll talk about another one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and then we'll finally talk about the green holy behemoth himself. I'm going to talk about Ralph Ineson as the Green Knight. And, oh boy. This is probably my favorite part of the movie. I'm not even going to lie. Like, he's not even in it for that long, but you're just like, oh my god, is that CG? Is that, like, practical? I don't even know.
No.
Apparently it was practical, though. I ended up reading later, apparently it was practical effects. And let me tell you, it looks amazing. Like...
It's beyond amazing. Like, the practical effects, like, it's spot on.
Oh yes, and it's just, I bet it's going to be one of it. I bet to you, it is going to be one of these movies where where just filmmakers and film nerds are just going to watch it and be like, how in the hell did he do all of that? Like, and then I can just see Lowery just pulling a Stanley Kubrick and just burning all of his stuff. He's like, haha, you'll never learn my secrets. But but Ralph Ineson in this movie, he is amazing. I can't even say anymore. Like, do you have anything to add, Jacob? Like, it's just...
No, you just took the words right out of my mouth. He is excellent in this movie. Like, me personally, I would give him an Oscar nomination because, like, he really sold me on his performance as the Green Knight.
Oh my god, he's like, dude, I'm... You know, with indie movies, the Oscars tend to ignore indie movies. Now, I know it's a bit different because we're in COVID land, and it's been a weird time. But, my god, it's just, his role in this is phenomenal. I mean,
it really
he captures he just has this menace, but there's also this kind of playfulness to the character.
Yeah.
But really, you can just feel like you're intimidated by this thing, even though he's he's not like inherently malicious in nature. You're still kind of frightened by him.
Yes, but not like, oh my god, I can't look at him.
Oh no, it's like beautiful. Like, again, the practical makeup, which I didn't know at first. I'm like, is that CG? Is he motion capturing that? Is that like makeup? Which apparently I read it was mostly practical, which is insane.
Yeah, the practical effect with the Green Knight, along with Ralph's performance, it all blended so perfectly, in my opinion.
Oh,
overall,
my God.
Phenomenal.
Yes, I mean, it just brought. I mean, he brought this character to life, and again, you can just tell. And apparently, there was a funny story. I watched another video from David Lowery because, again, I got really obsessed with this movie for some reason. And, you know, he was just like, apparently Ralph Ineson is actually pretty good at riding horses, which, you know, he tends to ride horses at times in his movies. So, I mean, he's kind of come out to be a good horseman. Apparently, the horse was not being cooperative. One of the horses wasn't being cooperative, so they got him another one. But my God, I mean, he just plays the character so well, and it's like, it's again, how did they do that? Like, it's practical makeup, and it's just this guy, and we also got Ralph Ineson's voice, which the dude's got like one of those, like, he's like Jeremy Irons, where you're just like, oh man, that's iconic right there. Yeah. And he just is like, he just gives this like decree, like, you're gonna take me down, or you're gonna strike at me. I'll lend you my axe, and it's a pretty dope axe, by the way. Like, I'd strike at you. I'd be like, I want that axe. I'll happily lose something to get that axe.
Yeah, I'm willing to lose a limb or something.
Well, yeah, preferably a limb. I don't want to cut off your head. I don't want him cutting off my head. But
no.
But yeah, there's also a playfulness. There's this ambiguity of what his character actually is. Like, is he a villain? Is he, like, actually trying to help the hero? It's not really said. Yeah. Like, you kind of have to come to your own conclusions with this movie. But, like, there's this mystery around his character. I've even heard theories that, like, the ghost, the guy who robs him, and the Lord, which I think is true for the Lord, most definitely. But, there are theories that those are all aspects of the Green Knight. Like, it's just like it's like something he's like influencing these events somehow.
Yeah.
Which, you know, is a neat theory. I definitely could see that in this movie. Because it kind of twists the original story a little bit.
It does.
In that it kind of gives you, which is, when we get to the ending, I thought, oh man, this is a kind of gutsy move. But, we'll get to that. But, again, we don't really know what his goal is in this movie. Aside from this friendly game. And I'm using air quotes there. Using air quotes. Friendly game. For, which, you know, you're just like, I don't trust this. And, you know, but, you know how the King Arthur people are. They're just kind of like, oh, okay, we're going with it, because, you know, honor. And Dev's like, dude, I can lose my head over here. No. But yeah, one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie is when he shows up for the first time. And he waves the, it's the lilies? Isn't it? I don't know. It's like the palm branch for Easter. But he, like, throws it down to signal friendship. Apparently that meant friendship back in the day. And he just kind of rolls in, and, again, back to it, there's a clear horror element in this movie, because when he actually issues the challenge, there's, like, this body horror element, like, you know, where he starts speaking through Guinevere, and she picks it up, and he ends up, like, speaking through her. It's really unsettling. I mean, again,
it really is.
Yeah, it's just like, it's like really gets under your skin a bit. You're just like, oh my dear God, like, this is. I thought he was just gonna, like, give this dramatic speech, and it's like, oh no, we're gonna amp it up even more.
No, like I remember seeing it in theaters. I was like so unsettled by that scene.
Yeah, I was just like, oh God, like I'm so I'm surprised that I was half expecting my dad to just be like, what the hell did you get us into? Which he kind of did at the end of the movie, but
Yeah.
and it's like, but yeah, it's back to that horror element I was talking about. Yeah, it's like that scene where he talks through Guinevere, like that's like something out of The Exorcist.
Yes.
Like if this
really
wasn't
is.
like a fantasy adventure, like you would be thinking this is a horror movie.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, it's like, oh, King Arthur, oh, there's an evil spirit in here that's taking over Guinevere.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of that, there's also like really nice touches in this movie that I should mention real quick. Like every time magic is used, for the most part, there's like this red haze that comes over the screen, and and that usually, if you're like paying attention, it means it's signifying that something magical is happening. That's just nice little touch right there. I really like that.
It is.
It's like
it's
the
not
scene.
Your face.
Like there's the scene where Arthur looks at Merlin, or the guy who's supposed to be Merlin, which again they don't ever say their names. I don't think they say their names in this movie.
No, they don't.
I don't think so. No, but he kind of looks at Merlin, and this red haze comes over, and he just kind of shakes his head, which again kind of falls in that ambiguity of the Green Knight's character. Like, what is this thing, and what does he want? And which there is a little issue where I would have been like, okay, like you don't think about it and just be like, we could just be like throwing this dude's life away, and this could be like some sinister force, but that's a kind of a small problem, but I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but that is kind of weird that they didn't take more precautions. Which, I guess they did when they gave him that belt, girdle, or the girdle as they call it in the movie.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of weird that they didn't, like, it seems like they were just kind of like, I know they're all about honor and all that, but it's like, you didn't think, like, this could be, like, sinister, and I guess they did, but anyway, I'm getting off topic. But, and also the scene where, it's the similar haze, except it's green. Like the Green Knight. You can see the Green Knight is using magic of some sort. Or at least I think so.
Yeah.
And he gives his epic speech about how he wants this game, and Gawain just like, being the young, ambitious punk that he is, just gets up and is like, okay, I will fight thee, and then chops off his head.
Just like...
Good thwack. It's so suspenseful, too. I forgot to mention that. Such a suspenseful
It really
scene.
is.
It's like, oh, he's like, you can just feel, it gets your heart pumping, man. You're just like, he's like standing there, and the knight just puts the thing down, and he's like on his knees, and Gawain's like, what are you doing? Another nice little touch. He's like, what are you doing? Get up and fight. And he's all like, I'm surprised there isn't like a YouTube video where it's like Green Knight being a mood for like a minute. Those, have you ever seen those types of videos?
Oh, yeah, I've seen it, yeah.
Again, well, then he thwacks his head off, and everyone's like, okay, that was weird. And then he gets up. And it's like, it's so jarring, too. I mean, it's like such a jarring thing, and he just gets up, picks up his head, he opens his eyes. It's like it's like the most suspenseful thing ever. And then he says...
It really...
And then he says, 1 year hence. And then he runs off, laughing maniacally, and you're just like, oh my. Oh.
No, that scene was so mesmerizing.
Oh my God. So is. It is. It's just like, dude. Like, that was so, like, gripping.
It really was. When I first saw it, I was like, yeah, I know I'm getting into something really interesting here.
Oh, yeah. And it only just gets stranger from here, And basically, so Gawain waits a year, And there's a nice little transition with puppets, which I think is a use of foreshadowing, or it has to be.
Yeah.
I can't see it as anything else. But it just kind of, and it like thwacks his head off, and everyone's like, yeah, you know. Really, it's just, again, like, there's so many layers to this we could talk about, but I don't want to go into tin hat territory. We're not that kind of show.
No.
But so many details in this film. You're just like, new rock stars, get onto this.
There really is.
But okay, so then after this transition, which is really nice, we get to see that people start to know who Gawain is, and there's also this great little scene with his little girlfriend, who is also the lady later, which I'm sure that was on purpose. But again, we'll get into that.
Oh yeah.
And and she gives like this really just like I know like you could make an argument about the emotion of the scene, but the lines are just delivered so well, and I just love the lines in that scene because it just sounds like a poem brought to life. Like they really dove into this source material. And like you can see that, you know, Gawain is kind of in conflict there. He doesn't really know how to react. You know, of course he does like her. You can tell in his face that he likes her, but there's also this kind of, you know, you're a peasant sort of thing, you know.
Yeah, just sort of conflicted in a way.
You know, there's that class divide thing. Which, you know, I mean, of course in our old modern day Yankee logic, we're like, that's stupid. But, you know, there's, like, a genuine conflict there, you know? It's, like, you can definitely tell that...
Yeah, there is.
Like, when he looks at that medallion that she gives him, or I forget what it is exactly.
Yeah.
But, like, you can kind of tell that he feels... again, kind of shows that conflict of his character. You know, he doesn't really quite know what to do.
Yeah.
And then he goes on his journey, and there's a long tracking shot of him riding away from the kingdom of King Arthur. It's like at first you're just kind of like, okay, like why is it going on this long? I guess it's one of those movies that it's kind of like a Bergman movie, or it's kind of like a Bergman movie, which I know you've seen a lot of Bergman films. I've only seen one, and it's The Seventh Seal, which is a great film. I highly recommend it.
Oh, yeah.
It's another more meditative, I call it a fantasy film. I know there's some people who might argue with me on that, but I think The Seventh Seal is a fantasy movie.
I agree on that.
I wouldn't be surprised if The Seventh Seal or Bergman inspired this movie, because there is a lot of that kind of contemplative long shots that really forces you to examine the atmosphere, like in his movies.
No, there were times where it reminded me of the Seventh Seal movie or a Bergman movie.
Oh, yeah. There isn't really, like, the long talks, like, in Bergman movies, which isn't, like, a bad thing. I like the long talks in those movies, because they're mostly pretty good. But it's, like, this movie's more of a visual thing. Like, it takes from Bergman in the visual compartment. Like,
it's definitely more of more visual storytelling.
Oh, yeah, and we'll get to the visual storytelling. Like, we're going to get to a lot of things in this. So he goes on his journey, and he comes across his battlefield. Which, you know, I could make fun of this scene, because it's like, it's kind of obvious where this is going to go, and it's like this, like, little ratty street kid just running around like, hey, what you doing? And he's all like, I'm just passing through, and he's like, I'll tell you where the Green Chapel is, and he's like, oh, really? Oh, where is it? And the kid's just like, oh, it's that way, you know, he points wherever. And he's like, oh, thanks, and he, like, rides off. He's like, hey, wait a minute. It's like something out of, like, a weird comedy where it's, like, you know, it's like the it's like a comedy of errors. And it's like, that's one scene you could probably find issue with, because he's like, dude, you know where this is going. And, you know, it kind of works because, you know, again, like we mentioned before, this Gawain is a little naive to the world. But, I mean, you kind of have to use common sense there a little bit. Like, this dude's clearly trying to hustle you.
Like, yeah, I wouldn't trust this small dude, like, trying to give me locations. I can...
And, like, one of the things that threw me off is, like, when some people were criticizing Gawain for not giving this dude any money. And I'm all like, dude, he looked suspect from the first moment he laid eyes on... Like, he was being nice to him, to be fair to him. Like, he wasn't, like, being mean. He wasn't like, you ain't taking my money, bitch. You know, he was just like, you'll have my thanks. You know, he was trying to be nice to the dude, and he's all like, could I have coin? And, you know, you're like, dude, you're not Oliver Twist. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Like, leave me alone. Let me go back to my adventure.
Hey, look, buddy, I have a fantasy adventure I'm on. Like, okay, like, can you chill for a sec? Yeah, thank you. But no, then obviously this kid, he does this little, again, back to the small little details. I like how this kid does magic tricks. He does, like, illusions, you know. And it's not really the magic like in this movie, like actual magic. It's just like illusionary tricks, you know. Like he makes the coin disappear and somehow he gets it in his hand. But then, you know, as you might expect, this guy and his crew, probably because the trailer kind of gave it away, like, oh, this dude's gonna rob you. But, but yeah, the guy gets robbed, basically takes all of his stuff, and then Gawain is just, like, crying. And he's, like, laying there. Again, back to that naive thing. And then he's like, you know what? I'm not going to die like a bitch. And then he, like, cuts himself free, which is another good scene. And then he scours off to go find him. I could have sworn there was going to be a scene where he, like, found them and just beat the shit out of them.
Yeah, same here. I thought there'd be a scene where he would just, like get his revenge.
Yeah, where he's like, yeah, bitch, I'm back. Thought you could steal my shit? No, but no, that doesn't happen. It's just kind of... He's just like, okay, whatever. And he just walks... He walks to the, then he walks to the ghost house, which, again, one of the best sequences of this whole movie. I mean...
Yeah. Chilling. Haunting.
I had to go piss, and then I caught the scene as it was starting. But when I came back to see it, I was just transfixed by it. It's just... You know, and, you know, poor Gawain just wants to play. And again, there's some people like, oh, wow, he failed. Like, he just ran into this dude's house and just slept there. It's like, you guys are being way too hard on him, okay? He's you can tell he doesn't really want to do this, but he's like, all right, it's a house. Like, I'll just shack up here for a night. Yeah,
I need to sleep somewhere. I can't sleep out in the open.
And then the ghost shows up. He's like, oh, shit. Like, when she shows up, like, I'm like,
like, who?
And then she, you know, she gives him her little backstory, like some knight came and defiled her and cut off her head. Which you're like, and then Gawain kind of pulls the, you know, Jedi Knight, that's not possible! That's not the way of a knight, you know? And she's like,
yeah.
And she's like, well, that's what happens. And then he kind of dumbly asks, which I'll admit this is one where I'm like, okay, that's wrong. Where she's like, hey, could you help me get my head, like my skull, just from down in the water? And he's like, okay, cool. Reward? You're like, no! She's a ghost, you idiot! It's like, it's just one, like, he's just being a fucking idiot. You're just like, dude, like... It's one of those scenes where you're just shaking your... you don't hate him, but you're just kind of shaking your head like, ugh, dude, you can't do that.
Yes.
But, of course, she's like...
What the hell are you doing?
And, of course, she's kind of like, oh, yeah, you know, I'm a ghost, so I don't have much, you know, money to spare. But I can get you something, though, if you want it. But you just have to go, you know, get my skull first. And he's like, cool. So he jumps in the water, and he hits the skull. Back to that little small detail, the red starts hazing, so it's kind of hinting that something magical is happening. Though I only think half deeply, so I probably don't get what it meant, but clearly there was something magical happening there. So he grabs the skull, gives it back to her, and she's just like, oh, thank you, dear knight. Take me to sleep now. He's like, all right. So then she, like, puts her skull on the bed, and her body shows up. And that's the end of that arc. Little adventure. Which,
Yep.
Which, again, I mean, I'm just summarizing the movie, but just a phenomenal just use of atmosphere. Again, like you said, it's very chilling. It just gets under your skin. And you're just so completely enthralled by it the entire time.
Absolutely.
And you're just like, oh my god, this movie's just doing it. Please don't drop the ball in the third act. Please don't drop the ball in the third act. But we'll get to that.
No, please.
But it's like, okay, this movie's going on. It's got momentum. It's going. So then, okay, I think that's his second test. So then he goes around for a couple of days. Oh yeah, he meets this fox. I forget about that. He meets this fox. He makes a friend with the little fox. And it's like, that's CG. Now you can tell it's CG, but the CG is really good though. It's not a bad CG.
Yeah.
You can tell it's CG, but it's not bad CG, you know? I don't know if you've ever had one of those experiences where you can, like, tell it's CG, but it's still good, so you're like, you know what? I'll go with it.
No, yeah. I get that from, like, some Marvel movies where, like, it's good CG, but you can tell it's CG.
Oh, yeah. It's like Shang-Chi, you know? Like the recent Shang-Chi movie. Like, there's scenes where they're, like, flying around, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's CG, but it looks fine. So, like, I can go with it.
Yeah.
With Shang-Chi, another great movie. But yeah, this movie's practical for the most part. Like, the fox's CG, and those giants, which, oh yes, he meets giants. He ends up consuming mushrooms, and he trips out for a little bit, and he sees the Green Knight, and that kind of plays into the idea that the Green Knight is sort of orchestrating all of this somehow. Like, you know, and, well, of course, he orchestrated it by letting him cut his head off, but, you know, there's, like, his hands is in more than just that, is what I'm saying.
Mm.
And he's just, like, threatening people, or not threatening people, but he's just kind of napping there, and it's like, that has to suck. He's, like, napping out in the open. Yeah. It's like, you know, that... Oh, yeah, he gets his green axe back. I forgot to mention that. I'm forgetting things in this. He got the green axe back, somehow. Maybe that's what the magic was. How did I not pick... Oh, my God. That must have been... Okay, so he got his... I guess he magically gets the axe back. That's probably what the red haze meant. I did not even pick that up till just now. Again, I need to see this movie again. I've only seen it once. And it's a memorable experience, but, you know, I gotta see it again someday.
We definitely see it again.
So he gets his axe back. He sleeps out in the cold. Looks like hell. Like, that looks like it sucks.
Oh, yeah.
I felt bad for Dev Patel. Like, I hope he didn't get, like, pneumonia during the whole thing.
No.
Though, apparently David Lowery was sick, but I'm hoping Dev Patel didn't get sick. Because that looks horrible.
Yeah, that looks like one of the most, like, horrible...
That looks like the most uncomfortable thing ever, you know?
It really did.
And then, another memorable scene. I didn't like this scene at first, but it kind of grew on me, especially once I heard the score. The score of the Giants Call, which, I mean, again, probably the best score of the year. If it's not my favorite film of the year, it's probably my favorite score of the year.
Mine too.
It's just like, oh my god. But the Giants, I initially was kind of, like, not into this scene. Like, it's just kind of shouting.
Yeah.
Like, the giant just walks up. Again, it's obvious CGI, but it's, like, it's not bad. Again.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, I'm not criticizing CG. Like, CG is fine. And, you know, and sometimes it can be truly exceptional, like in the recent Planet of the Apes movies.
Yes.
But, like, you know, you can tell it's CGI, but it's not, like, bad. It's not, like, distracting at all. And, but it's I don't know, it's just it was a weird scene for me at first, because it's just, like, this giant, and he's, like, and, you know, Gawain just gives his epic yell. You can see on the, it's actually the scene that the poster of the movie is riffing from, anyway. And he's like, ah! And then the giant, like,
Oh!
sees this puny human and walks over and just starts, like... It's called The Giant's Call. If you listen to it on, like... It's, like, beautiful, but it's also, like, haunting at the same time.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I think it's from the giant scene. And then the fox gives his own little eureka, or whatever it is. I don't know what it is, but he shouts at it, and then the giant's like, okay, see you later.
No, I agree on the giant scene. I felt it was out of place at first. Like, it didn't really have a place in this story. But, yeah, after thinking about it, kind of grew on me as well.
Yeah, and I remember some other people were like, oh, well, he was trying to get a ride off of him so he could get to his place faster. And I'm like, oh, so that was what that was. Okay. All right. Okay. That makes sense. Which is another case of people are being way too hard on him for whatever reason. It's like, you know, if I were walking for like 3 days, or not, however long he was out there, which I'm guessing hinting from the movie's timeline is like a week or so, I think.
Yeah. It seems like a week.
A week or more, maybe 2, but a week at most, maybe a little more. But that's my timeline of the movie. It's like taking over the course of like a week. And let me tell you, if you're walking around for a week, not knowing where you're going, like, you know, you can't say you'd be tempted if you saw giants walking around, and they're not going to like eat you.
Yeah, who wouldn't be tempted to like ask for a ride from a giant?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, don't act so high and mighty. It's just like, what would you do? Would you just be like, oh, hey, it's like, oh, no, it's fine. Like, you don't need to take me. Like, no, you'd be tempted. You'd be at least tempted.
Yeah, exactly.
So then we meet the Lord. And this is probably the creepiest part of the movie. And I don't just mean, like, in terms of the atmosphere. This is just a weird fucking people. These are just weird fucking people.
Absolutely.
Like, this was the part of the movie where I'm like, okay, this is just weird.
Yeah, this is playing out weird.
Like, the wife is, like, giving him the I wanna fuck you vibes, and the husband is also just, like... Which, you know, in the original story, he's, like, a version of the Green Knight. And in the movie, there is, like, really strong hints that this is the same case. Like, you know, like, this is, like, a version of the Green Knight. But, again, these are some weird-ass fucking people. And not even that they're a little kook. Like, they're fucking crazy.
No, that was, like, the weirdest scene in the movie. Not atmospheric-wise, but overall, just weird.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, these are like if you went out in the middle of nowhere, and these are the people, like, it's like in a horror movie when they're like the kooky people out in the middle of nowhere. It's that, except in a medieval fantasy movie. And I remember just there's this creepy lady watching them the whole time. He'll just, like, wake up and she's just standing there. You're like, and I you know, of course, Gawain is kind of the audience surrogate, so I bet he, just as us, is like, what the fuck is going on here?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Like, who is this? Why are they being so weird? And they're making, like, strange sexual, like, it gets, like, in this weird sexual thing. Like, you can, like, even the husband, played by Joel Edgerton, who did pretty good in this movie, too, which, the trailers kind of give him more importance, but he's only in the movie for, like, 15 minutes, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know. He's good in the movie, but again, these are fucking crazy people. And the wife, and it's kind of, once you think about it, it's a bit obvious what this scene is. It's another test.
Yeah.
It's like, alright, can you humor these fucking crazy people? It's like a test of patience, or maybe it's a test of I don't know exactly what they're... Now, there is a scene where it's clear there's one test, but there's another test where it's like, not sure? Patience, maybe? Because these people are crazy.
Yeah, just flat out crazy. Like, fucking weird and insane.
And, you'd think, they're out in the woods, in the forests, and, you can kind of see how they might have lost a couple of marbles. But,
yeah.
You're just like, you don't want to hang out with these people. Like, they're trying to, they're, harassing you. They're literally propositioning you for sex. They're one of those couples who are kind of freaky.
Yeah. Just freaky in a sexual way.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, if it was the queen, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, it's almost like it's almost like the Lord gets off on people lusting over his. It's one of those. It's that kind of crazy where it's just he's just one of those guys who just gets off on watching other people boink his wife or want to boink his wife. Or whoever that is, I don't know. It's not said what they are exactly. No. And, but then it comes to another, so he meets him. He's super friendly, which is always a alert meter, okay. When you're out in the forest.
I know you're bullshitting.
No one is this friendly out here. I already got robbed, okay? Thanks, Now, if I were Gawain, I would have just been you know what? Thanks, I appreciate the offer, but, I've gone through enough shit. But Gawain, again, he still hasn't learned. We'll give the people who are a bit harsher towards Gawain. He is a little, wouldn't say, again, he is naive, but he's a little stubborn, where he's you know what, fuck it, this is gonna work out next time.
Yeah, he is hard-headed.
Yes, exactly, that's a better word for it. He is headstrong, as they say, and he is very much that way. He's you know what, fuck this, that happened, it was crazy, but it'll work next time.
Yes.
And you can probably just tell from the instant he walks into that fucking mansion, he's I'm regretting this.
What the hell did I just bring myself into?
Yeah, he's what the hell is this? And his wife is, obviously giving him the come over to my room and fuck me. And the husband's just go on then, And, but it also brings to this other scene where, we finally get a look into Gawain's motives. And, he's just oh, well, what do you want from this quest? And they also mention, oh, yes, you're Gawain, we know who you are, you're pretty well known around here. And Gawain is just he's not sure what he wants out of this. And honor is probably the best thing he can come up with, which is another part of his character. He's someone who doesn't really know what he wants.
Yes.
Which I forgot to mention earlier. He's young, he's naive, he's still figuring things out. But you can see throughout the movie, he doesn't quite know what he wants out of this. He's okay, exactly. I'm going on this mission, hopefully it gets me some clout with the, King Arthur and his friends, but what do I actually want, And he kind of comes up with the best excuse he can, which is honor, and they kind of have this conversation, and the wife says something to the effect of green is a really powerful color, whatever, Green Knight, because they're talking about the Green Knight, and it's a big line in the movie. And then, there's that creepy lady in the background, the blindfolded one, which I've heard theories that it's Morgan Le Fay, who is Gawain's mom in this movie, watching him in her way. Because in the beginning, when they do a little spell, they have wraps on their eyes. So there's a pretty popular theory, and I would say it's true, that it's his mom watching him.
That would make the most sense.
Yeah, that's probably the only reasonable thing, unless it's some witch that they have, it's in D&D they have their maester, or that's Game of Thrones, but it's their maester, it's that lady who helps them out with more arcane things.
Yeah,
but yeah. She's such a fucking creepo. She's watching him while he sleeps. And it's just dude. Ever heard of personal space? Oh my god. And, then the wife comes in, or she makes like a painting of him at first, and you can just tell that she's wanting to get some of that, Gawain-ness. And Gawain is like, he's trying, which again, people are just like, he gave in to his lust. Like, what a fucking... Ugh. But it's like, he's trying not to give in to her at first. He's like, hey man, look, you're hot, and you look exactly like my girlfriend at home, okay? But, like, look, I appreciate the flattery, but you gotta, okay? Like, no, it's not happening. So, then here comes the just fucking, these people are batshit insane. She comes in and basically sexually assaults him. She has another thing I forgot to mention. He lost that girdle. She's wearing it. She just so happens to be wearing it, which kind of falls into that theory that every one of the challenges that he's gotten is like the Green Knight's machinations. And I think it's most clear in this scene that this has just been an elaborate test the whole time by the Green Knight. She basically fondles him, and he's like, you can tell he's not really into it. And a lot of people are like, wow, she just let him jerk him off. It's like, he doesn't seem like he's enjoying it. He's just like, and she's all like,
no,
do you want
like
the
a task going through?
Yeah, it's all...
Get through.
And she's like jerking him off, and she's all like, oh yeah, you want the girdle? You dirty boy. And he's like, yes. And then she pulls out, and it's like, ugh, she gets some of his stuff on her, and you're just like, ugh, I'm like, so this is a lusty movie, like they said.
Like, shit.
He takes the girdle, and he gets the fuck out of there. He's like, fuck this, I am leaving. I've dealt with this shit too long. I'm leaving. So, he leaves. And another thing I forgot to mention, the Lord basically made like a deal with him, like, hey, I'm gonna give you some of my stuff, and you give me stuff that you've received from me. And Gawain's like, cool. And Gawain's like, you know what? Fine. I'll do just that. And he doesn't do this, because obviously these people are insane. And again, people are like, he didn't even give the stuff. Again, these people are fucking insane. It's like, if someone, like, comes to you, literally sexually assaults you, and you're just like, and then they get mad at you, they're victim blaming. This is bullshit. But anyways, so he comes across the Lord, and he's just super happy-go-lucky. He's like, oh yes, I've gone hunting today. What would you bring me? And he's like, look, I'm sorry, I appreciate the hospitality, but I gotta leave. Like this, this has just been crazy. And he's like, that's unfortunate, and he gives that kind of, he's very cheeky performance, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, I'm just messing with this guy. His misery brings me pleasure. No, but, so this guy is just, he's like, I'm gonna give you some of the stuff I got, though. Remember our agreement? And he's like, shit. So, he doesn't give him the girdle. He got the girdle from his wife, but he doesn't give him the girdle. And but the Lord doesn't seem all that concerned. He's like, you know what? Here's your little fox friend. I found him out scurrying about. I caught him. I won't kill him though. And then then Gawain, of course, still spooked by the whole experience, he runs off, and he's just like, I'll see you some other time. He's like, yes, and the Lord just gives him a whole, yes, we will. Mwahaha. So, after that, what did you think of the Lord arc of the movie? I mean, you have any thoughts on this?
Just fucking weird.
Yeah.
I think that's all I'll say. Just fucking bizarre, and just like, it's like,
I think it's meant, to be fair, I think it's meant to be that way, because again, I think the whole thing is a test. by the Green Knight, and the implication is pretty heavy.
No, I think it was intentional.
That this is the case. But it's, like, really bizarre. It's just, like, this is not... And you can tell Gawain is just so jarred by this experience. Because it's like, these are not how lords and ladies usually act.
Yes. It was definitely intentional.
Oh, yeah. But, did you have any other thoughts on this?
The Lord of the Rings scene.
Oh, it's like Lord of the Rings? A little bit. It's kind of like that, that character who goes fucking crazy. I forget his name now. Probably I'm gonna get roasted online for this if I post this up, but I forget his name. It's the guy who played Walter in Fringe, John Noble's character, and Brad Dourif's character, just trying to corrupt him. It's basically like that, except it's like not as sinister. Except kind of going back to that, it's fantastical, but there's that sinister undertone underneath it. And another kind that's a motif of the movie. Is this kind of sinister undertone throughout all of the scenes of this movie. Like, especially when it comes to, like, this scene in particular.
Yeah.
Because, Gawain is just freaked out by this whole thing, and he just doesn't know how to handle it, and, to be honest, like, how would you handle that situation? But, so finally, he's about to get to his resting place, or his reckoning, and he's walking around, and the beautiful imagery in this scene, where he's walking towards the boat, and it's like, finally, you can see the relief on his face. Another good acting by Dev Patel is just, you can just tell, he's like, finally, something, thank you, Jesus. They're very Christian in this. There's like a subtext with Christian and pagan beliefs in this movie. And they talk about Jesus a lot. Like, it takes place during Christmas as well, so there's that.
Yeah.
But Gawain basically has, like, the Eureka, thank God moment. Like, finally something good is happening. And then the fox starts to talk.
Yeah.
And another theory I've heard about this, it's Morgan Le Fay, his mom in the movie, who is, like, telling him who's, like, trying to ward him off of his mission. But Gawain is, like, he gets mad, and it's kind of a sad scene when he and the fox split up. Because he's like, I don't need you! It's like, it's one of those scenes, and it's, it's cliched a bit, but it's like, it's kind of sad, It
is.
And, you're just like, man, like, that's just, like, he's been your friend this whole time, and you're just like, fuck you! He's like, don't go on the trip! Again, another version of this sinister undertone, because, again, you can just tell, like, this is not normal. It's, like, the fox is straining when it talks, and a great performance by whoever did the fox. I don't know who did it. But, great job. Like, you can tell, like, this fox is, like, violating its own nature, and it's, like, talking, and you can tell the strain in its voice. Like, it's not meant to be doing this.
That's good voice acting right there.
Oh, yeah, it's great voice acting. That's, phenomenal. And, like, everyone is fantastic in this movie. Like,
everybody.
Like, creepy undertones of, Joel Edgerton, that kind of vulnerability but, like, melancholic haunting of Erin Kellyman's performance, who was in Falcon the Winter Soldier, and that was pretty good, too. Yeah. She was good in that, too. I can't wait to see more of her in that and stuff, because apparently she's, like, newer. But she was great in this movie.
She was.
And same thing with the King Arthur's court. It's just this kind of sinister thing about it, and even with the Green Knight. And again, we're about to get back to him. But he's pissed off, and he's like, you know what? I'm just going to go on this alone. I'm just going to complete it alone. So he goes down the river, and finally makes it to where this thing is. And it's this kind of dilapidated church. And there's, like, there's, like, vines all over it. And it's, again, beautiful imagery in the scene.
Gorgeous.
Oh, my God. It's just, like, so good. I forgot who did the photography of this movie. Let me actually look it up. Let me just type it in real quick. Let's see. Andrew Droz Palermo apparently is who did this movie. Also did A Teacher and You're Next, which is fucking hilarious. But oh yeah, he also did A Ghost Story. Oh, he did A Ghost Story. All right, that makes more sense. But he really struck gold with this movie. Everyone struck gold with this movie, in my view.
He really did.
Everybody did. And
yeah, all around. Everybody.
It's just a banger the whole time. So then we're finally...
It really was.
So then we finally get to the confrontation that's been building up this whole movie. Gawain facing his destiny with the Green Knight. And you could just feel it throughout the entire scene. Just the anticipation. You know. Just the...
You really can.
Like, it's gonna happen. Like, this is about to happen. And you can just see the fear on Gawain's face. Like, the anticipation. And, you know...
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like... And he sees that it's not moving. It's just kind of sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just kind of, you know... by himself. And, he's just sitting there. So then he waits for a night, I think. I don't know how long it is. But it's implied to be like a night or so. And then he finally gets up. And oh yeah, he put the axe down on the stairs where he's at. And he waits for him. And then then the Green Knight gets up, and we finally get the confrontation between the Green Knight and Gawain. And Gawain is not doing well.
No.
He is frightened out of his mind of this thing.
Yeah, he's fucking terrified.
Oh, yeah, he's so scary. Not scary, but he's frightened. Let's just say that. He's, again, back to Dev Patel's performance. He really sells that he's frightened of this. Like, he is terrified, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, again, back to the duty. He's got the girdle on, so, you know, it's like he's not going to hurt him. And the whole thing about the girdle is that his mom gave it to him to make sure that he wouldn't get hurt in any way. And the fox also said the Green Knight won't show you mercy. And he's like, you know what? I can deal with that. And so he kind of tries to cite... He admits to being afraid. Finally. He's finally like, I'm afraid. You know, like, I don't know if... Like, I've been thinking about it. I don't know if I can do this. And the Green Knight rather... you know, callously says, like, you've had a year to get your shit together, man. And he's just, of course, he's just frightened. He's just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. And the Green Knight, like, strikes twice at him. And he's like, just give me a second here. Don't get crazy. And then, when he goes for the third strike, we get what I think is one of the best scenes I've ever seen, like, in a long time. Like, it's just a masterpiece.
Absolutely.
It's just a little masterpiece of its own in this movie, which is the what if dream sequence. And I was like, and there's just so much that happens in this. I can't even just, like, Jacob, do you want to just, because I don't want to steal your thunder, but, like,
oh boy, yeah.
Dude.
No, I want to, like, talk about this scene. First time I saw it, I was so, like, sucked into it, just like the entire movie. But yeah, scene in particular, I was so sucked in by the what if, like, I don't take this risk. And seeing the consequences that could happen if he does this, it really enthralled me.
It's also just... It's just such a masterpiece of visual storytelling as well. You don't need a word for this entire sequence.
No, it's all visual storytelling.
It's all just visuals, and you can just see what happens, and you put it together what happened. And it's so... It's like when in 12 Angry Men with all the great monologues, except it's like visual story. It's like Under the Skin. Just phenomenal visual storytelling. And
yeah,
it's just
phenomenal. No, like,
and you just see this guy's life.
no, that's
Wait, what?
yes.
Wait, what'd you say?
The scene, the what if scene.
And
the what if scene is just a masterpiece, as you said.
Oh,
phenomenal.
It's a legit like small masterpiece on its own. Like if you just showed someone that, either A, they'd be impressed, or B, they just weren't paying attention and were like, what? What happened? And it's...
Yeah.
Oh my god, it just sucks you in. The music, the just seeing this man go through his life. And you can just feel...
Yes.
You can feel the resentment, and you can just feel just how wrong this scene feels. And it is just phenomenal. It's like, someone described it as Gawain's life flashing before his eyes. And that's exactly what it is.
It really is.
And at first I was like, is this how they're going to end it? Or is this a dream sequence? And I was so gripped by it. And it wasn't like a predictable, it was a dream sequence. It was like legit gripping. And you're just like, because it feels wrong. You're just like, dude, this is not like, and you can just see just the bitterness of having run off like that.
Yes.
Just completely
I initially thought
eats him.
It would be like the ending of the movie.
And I thought like, either A, they're going to just be like completely just go against the story that we know, and they just made the story up as like, that's what he told them what happened, and they wrote it down. And this is what actually happened. Or it's a dream sequence. And it's just, you could just see the rage and disgust that he has for himself for having run off like that.
Yes.
Like, and you can just see it just from when he leaves his little, like, girlfriend. Again, I forget her name. But when he takes the child from her, and, you can just tell, like, he doesn't like that he's doing it, but he kind of feels he's too far gone at that point. And and he marries this noble woman, and they have a little kid, and then you can just, again, you could just feel just that self-hatred and of his character through the scene.
You really can. Like, that whole dream sequence, him realizing what the consequences could be like, it was sort of a wake-up call for him.
Yeah, it's like, if he ran off, this is possibly what could happen.
Yeah.
And
he's like, I'm not making that mistake.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful scene, because again, all you need is the music. It's a crescendo, really. And it really is. It's him running off, and then he becomes the king, but you can just feel that regret at the mistake, at this bad choice that he made. Just eat at him. And, of course, it's his word against the Green Knights, unless the Green Knight came and was like, hey, he didn't do his shit, he's a pussy. But, that probably didn't happen. Now, this didn't happen in this timeline. But you can just see he's just so filled with disgust, and we don't even need any words. It's so good, and it's like the last 10 minutes of the movie. You're just so enthralled by it. The music just complements it perfectly. It builds up, and then it stops, and we see him, and it's like that. It's almost like a dream sequence, and he's right back to the point. And you can just see the realization on his face that he does, he may want to run off, but if he continues down this path of fear, this is possibly what could happen, and he doesn't want that.
No.
And it's just like, it's a beautiful thing, because, again, we don't need, like, words for that when he comes to that realization. And you can just see it just through the facial acting by Dev Patel. And again, MVP performance right there.
For real.
Aside from Ralph Ineson. And he finally is just like, you know what? Okay. And you can just see it. You can just see his resolve has firmed. And he's realizing that he is going to finally face his fear, and he's going to accept his fate. And he readies himself. He takes the girdle off, and he says, okay, I'm ready. And then the Green Knight suddenly just kneels before him. gigantic behemoth, and he just says, "Good job, my brave little knight." Excuse me, my voice is getting a little shot. Do you have anything to add about the scene, this little masterpiece that I haven't already said? Do you have any extra thoughts? Like, not the ending, but just like that little scene before we move on to the ending.
Oh, yeah. The dream sequence?
Yeah, the dream sequence.
Overall, like, it definitely a masterpiece, and, like, when he realizes what the outcomes are gonna be, like, if he just, like, runs off and doesn't accept his fate, and when he does, towards the end of the movie, that just, like, completed his whole arc of, like, going from this, like, naive and hard-headed,
scared young guy,
yes, to being like, okay, now I've understood and understand. I understand.
Yeah, and it's beautiful.
It really is.
That's the beauty of film. I remember I was just like, I probably didn't think this at first, but I was just, after thinking about it for a while, I'm like, that's the beauty of film right there. Like,
yes.
Like, there's so many great, like, moments in, like, cinematic history. This one should be one of them. I think so.
I agree.
Like, this should be like a defining cinematic moment. And I'm sure
really
plenty of film nerds are gonna get on this. I'm sure there's plenty of film nerds who are just gonna be like, "Oh my god, this movie's such a masterpiece." And that scene, oh my god. And I'd agree, and it's totally warranted. It's a phenomenal.
Absolutely.
It's so good.
In the ending, one of the best endings for me of this year, if not the best ending.
Oh yeah, and we're about to get into the ending. So the ending is a whole other beast. After that just phenomenal scene, just like, this is like that could just be its own short movie.
It really could be.
Like, you could literally just go, like, if you had like a moment and you just were like have a little short scene giving the context of what's happening, and then just have that whole scene and just understand what's happening. Oh my god. And then have the ending after that. It's just like, oh man. It's great. That probably would get all the awards. Probably not. The awards kind of suck.
Yeah.
So, we finally get to the end of this movie. And Gawain has realized that, okay, you know what, it's understandable to be afraid, of course, but I can't let it rule over me like this. And if I do, this could happen, and I've realized I don't want that. And, so he takes off the girdle and finally lets himself, he's like, okay, do what you're gonna do. And the Green Knight just suddenly, when he's not doing this sinister, kind of monstrous thing, he just seems pleased. And he just kind of leans down and he says, "Good job, my little knight," I think is something I think that's what he says. It's something of that sort.
He said, "Well done, my brave knight." And then the last thing he says, like, "Now off with your head." And that's when the movie ends.
And he kind of does this little thing where he uses his finger and does a little slicing motion, and then he says, then with like a little small smile, he says, "Now off with your head." And that's the end of the movie. And and oh man. Oh my god.
Couldn't have ended more perfectly than that.
And, you think, okay, so is he just gonna, like, have this little moment where he, like, goes back and then, like, oh, he's a hero? But that wouldn't have fit this movie. After thinking about it, the ending at first, you're just kind of like, huh, okay. And you kind of have to think about it. And I'm like, was that a good ending? And then I realized this was as perfect an ending as we could have gotten for a movie like this.
If they would have went into, like, oh, he's going to return and see what happens after that, it would have ruined the movie for me.
Yeah, but, I mean, I think if they just had, like, a cliche, like, Star Wars, nothing wrong with Star Wars, But if they had like a little cliche Star Wars-esque like celebration ending, that I think that would have ruined it.
Yeah.
That would have undercut the whole movie. Just it's not really about that. And they very wisely decide to not do that and leave it at his personal journey is over. Like, this is where it ends, and we'll decide what happens to Gawain, if he'll get his head chopped off. Now, the story gives a little more context on that, but again, for this movie, I'm glad they ended it this way.
It was the perfect ending.
Oh, yeah. And it's basically just, it's like, it's the best way this film could have ended, in my opinion.
Couldn't agree more.
It's just, oh, man.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, and the first, like, knee-jerk reaction is, oh, no, what's gonna happen next? But then, you gotta think about it, and you're just like, dude, okay. Like, this is just perfect as it is. Like, there's no way this film could have ended in any other way.
Yeah.
In my view, anyway. It's just, it's like the person that it's just like the ending is probably the best way they could have done it.
No, it was like
I feel like I'm repeating myself again.
Yeah. No, it was the perfect ending overall.
And yeah, it's just like, Gawain has completed his journey. Like, that's all we need to know. Like, it doesn't matter if he lived or died. It matters that he completed it. And he's finally overcome the things that were holding him back,
Yep. And his arc is complete.
And let go of his, like, darker fears of what he could be.
Yes.
And, that whole behemoth last, masterpiece of a scene, I mean, you could just say this, like, it's him confronting his fear, finally, and then accepting that this is what he fears, and he's just going to not do that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just blowing smoke in this movie, but that's kind of my interpretation of the ending. It's like, it doesn't matter if he lived or died. You can, I mean, I think it's certainly left up. I think they want you to. I think they do want you to, debate if he did live or die. But I don't think that was the main point, though. The main point is that he completed what he passed the test. He completed everything that he completed what he needed to do. And
exactly.
He finally completed that. And now he's a worthy hero. He's a true hero now.
Yes.
Like I said, like, I love Star Wars, but if it had like a Star Wars like celebratory ending where he gets like a medal or something, that just would have been stupid. Yeah,
it would have been so cliched and just like, okay, this feels out of place.
I'm like, goddamn studios, even though I don't think A24 is one of those studios that would do that. Like, oh, have a celebratory thing. Again, I don't think luckily if it's under A24, and A24, from my knowledge, just kind of lets you do what you want.
Yeah.
They seem like the type who just were like, here's a fucking movie, go have a fucking blast.
Yeah, do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, man, just go do it and have a fucking blast. And Lowery did it, and oh man, and again, it's just perfect, man. Like, the ending it's the best way it could have ended.
Couldn't agree more. The best ending for me this year.
Oh yeah, I mean that and Shang-Chi are probably my like tied for my favorite movies of this year.
Mine too, which we need to talk about next time.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about Shang-Chi next time. Like, that's, oh man, like that. Oh, I wouldn't say it's quite as thought-provoking as this movie we've talked about here, but
no.
But it is surprisingly very not thought-provoking, but thoughtful, I guess, of the characters and whatnot. But that's another conversation. But back to the Green Knight. But yeah, there's not really much else to say. We've talked about this movie for more than an hour now.
Yeah, we could gush over this movie for forever, but
there's so much more stuff I could talk about, but it's oh man, I just would be, not wasting breath, but it would just be a complete. You would just be like, oh my god, are these guys ever gonna stop talking? But but this film is phenomenal. It's the same type of feeling I got when I saw Under the Skin or The Witch, which are also A24 films. Just films that get under your skin and they just don't go away. And it's in the best way possible.
Yes. This film is The Green Knight. This film is the reason why I love talking about movies and just love films in general.
Oh, most definitely. Same here. It's just, it's a film that's intoxicating once you see it once and you appreciate it. Now, there are going to be people who don't love this movie, and hey, that's totally fine. No judgment. I'm not saying you're an idiot if you don't like this movie. I can totally get why someone might not get into this film. But let me tell you right now, I thought it was fantastic.
Oh yeah, excellent movie. Might be my favorite movie of this year.
I mean...
It's
everything. Just real quick, let's get some closing thoughts, just some other thoughts we need to hash out before we end this little excursion. I wanted to talk about the music. It's so badly throughout this, but I'm I don't know where I'd put it. Because it's there's not really a place where you're oh man, the music. It's oh yes, we're Gawain completed his. Oh yes, the music. But I guess now we can hash it out a little bit. But
yes, let's do.
The music in this movie.
That's a big way to put it.
It's just Daniel Hart. He has done the music for I think all of his movies, for all of David Lowery's movies. Let me tell you, this is probably my favorite score of the year. I'm not even gonna lie. There is
if it doesn't get a nomination, an Emmy nomination, or a Warner nomination,
we're rioting.
Then that's a fucking rob.
That's a rob, yes. Oh my god, it's gonna be the biggest blown opportunities. But it's just, oh my god, the music in this, Daniel Hart, he pulled out all the strings with this one.
Yeah, and he should pat himself in the back.
He's good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying all of his other movies are trash in compared to this one, which I would never say, because this dude is just fire. Especially, but this movie, I would say, is his magnum opus. This is probably the best. If the film isn't immersive enough, Daniel Hart just pulled a Hold My Beer and just. I'm gonna make it more immersive. It's not even gonna be immersive enough, and it's one of those scores that just helps with immersion into the film, as well.
It really does.
It's just
it's a mixture of it's so mesmerizing but haunting and chilling at the same time.
Oh, most definitely. And it's also, it also is very... Because this film is based in medieval times. Mm-hmm. And when you hear the music of this movie, you think, yeah, this is stuff that you'd think that people in medieval times were listening to at the time. Because, they didn't have much choice of genre at that time. And a lot of the songs were kind of these, little folksy tales. Or, these little kind of... little ballads, That's why there's bards in, D&D and whatnot, because but the music really does help immerse you into the set. If you're not immersed already into this movie, which I think the cinematography, acting, and storytelling already do that, but the score just amplifies it. What do you think, Jacob?
No, yeah, I couldn't agree more with what you said. The score, it just tops, it really sinks you in. Even more, I would say, the performances, cinematography, storytelling, That's I wouldn't say it's kind of icing on the cake, but like the score definitely like helps it out with its like visual storytelling and its overall like haunting theme.
Oh yes, and also, I mean, we were gushing over the long dream sequence, and I mean, I think that scene still would have worked even without the music, but I don't know if it would have been as powerful if the music wasn't there. I think it still would have worked, but the music was phenomenal in that scene, which I forgot to mention.
It's made it even more phenomenal.
Which is just like, that scene isn't already a banger. Like, this just makes it even more so.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's fantastic. Oh, it's so good. And it's like, again, it's like everyone was trying to like do as good as possible. They're pulling out all the punches for this movie.
They really are.
Even Alicia Vikander, or let me see how to pronounce her name. Alicia Vikander. Even she, I don't really think much of her. Like, I don't think she's like a bad actress or anything, but it's like, she's fine.
Yeah, she's good.
She's not like remarkable. I'll put it that way. And if she ever watches, if she has ever the boon that she ever watches this, if I do ever put it up, or if I decide this is bad and I'll try and do another version of this, I'm sorry. Please don't hate me or like dox me, but it's just not. She's not bad, but she's kind of fine.
Yeah, like, she's acceptable for what she's given.
She's dependable. You could tell she really is trying in this movie.
Yeah.
And even she is like trying really hard in this movie. And she's surrounded by a bunch of like banger actors like, Sean Harris and Ralph Ineson. So, you gotta kind of up your game a bit with that. But, oh man, like everyone really put their all into this movie.
They really did.
And
everyone is phenomenal.
Oh my god. It's just like, the music, just everybody. I'm not even joking. Like everybody, every like single even the costume designers and the like random people who were working on it, like everyone just was on their A game in this. Just not even. And we tend, us film nerds tend to kind of gloss over just some of the other like people who work on these movies, but like it's almost like everyone put their A game into this.
Absolutely.
No one. There was no slouch on this.
No, there was no laziness, no slacking off. Like, we're making this movie and we're gonna make it fucking phenomenal.
We're gonna make it as great as possible. It's probably because it was A24 and they're like, we expect great movies or you're getting fired. We're not making another movie with you. But probably not. But and don't get me wrong, A24 is like making some of the best films like right now.
Oh yeah, Moonlight, Under the Skin, Ex Machina.
Oh my god, yeah, just some of my a lot of my favorite movies of the 2010s. Most of it is like A24's brainchild.
Oh yeah, like they're the best company, I would say, best film company studio so far.
Oh yeah, like legit. Like if you, they, like also they made The Lighthouse, which is just also just another great movie. Which that's another movie like we'll talk about one day. That's another movie like this. This will probably take like a couple of hours, but that's also just an experience.
Yes, it's my personal favorite A24 film. Like that movie just sucked me in.
Oh yeah. Also, First Reformed is in there. That's also really good. Oh yes. Again, they're really the only one movie from A24 that I didn't really care for was The Killing of a Sacred Deer,
which I still need to see.
Jacob needs to see. I'm all like, hey man, I don't know if you'll like it. You might, don't know, but I did not like it at all. It's a memorable movie. I'll give you that if you ever see it, but it's not good though. I don't like it. It's one of my contrarian opinions where I don't like this movie, and a lot of people seem to like it. But aside from that, A24 usually puts out bangers.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like they are not well regarded for no reason.
Yeah, like all the praise they're getting, worth it.
Oh yes, and it's not just blowing smoke. Like, if you want to watch well-made quality films made by people who know what the hell they're doing and just have a good mind for storytelling on a cinematic level, just A24 is the best place you're gonna get it.
Absolutely.
It's just, oh my god, it's a phenomenal. It's just, oh man, and Green Knight is just another add-on to their roster of just phenomenal films.
Yep, it's just another gem added to their crown.
Oh yes. And no pun intended, because this is a film about crowns.
Yeah,
there's crowns in
no
this
pun
movie.
intended.
Yeah, but I mean, there are still movies I need to see from A24, like Lady Bird. Don't gasp, but I haven't seen that movie yet.
Excellent movie. I've seen it.
Oh,
Excellent.
You have? Oh man, I do want to see it. I've heard it's really good. I don't usually watch young adult films.
Yeah.
But I've heard that Lady Bird is really good. So I might check that out.
No, this is one of the best.
Oh man. But The Green Knight as well. And it's A24, so
exactly.
They make bangers about 90% of the time.
Yeah.
But just The Green Knight, phenomenal film. I can't even say it enough. I stan this movie.
Yeah, this movie fucking rules.
Oh my lord. It's just, there's so, I could literally make another episode of this just talking about just all the shit we didn't even talk about in this movie. We're just scratching the surface here.
Yeah, we could talk about this movie forever now.
Oh.
It's that good, guys.
Oh, yeah. Please, you might look at it, you might think, oh, this is gimmicky as hell, but dude, it is phenomenal.
Yeah,
I might even
issues very minor.
I might even dare to say this might be one of the best fantasy films ever made, up there with Lord of the Rings. And it's not as epic as Lord of the Rings,
absolutely.
but it certainly is in terms of quality storytelling. Green Knight's, it's going to be a classic in the future. I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. This film deserves the recognition it deserves. Even the people who don't like the movie, it's just a fun movie to talk about.
Oh yeah, I mean, even though people who don't like it, at least respect the amount of time they put into this. You gotta at least give them that. And I'm sure there's people who will give them that, but it's oh man. But Green Knight is just it's such a transfixing experience. I mean, I wouldn't say it's an easy watch, but it's one that'll engross you if you allow it to. It's just, oh man, it's so good. And again, it's again, A24, they're usually making bangers for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from their, occasional, there's the occasional movie that kind of misses the mark, but, they usually make really good movies. So go watch it.
Yeah, go see it once it's on streaming, once it comes out on Blu-ray.
Oh yeah.
Go check it.
If you're in England, it just came out recently. Talking to you, Tyag, if you ever watch this. But yeah, it's out. Go watch it.
Yeah, immediately just check it out.
Yeah, just don't even wait, bro. Don't even wait. Just watch it.
Right now.
Yeah, right now. No, maybe not right now. But when it does come out on DVD or Blu-ray or streaming, you will not regret missing this. If you have the patience for this film, it will reward you.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so we've gushed on about this movie for a while now. But yeah, this has been the first episode of our podcast, Brit and Jacob Movies. So before we end, Jacob, is there a movie you'd want to talk about that we both have seen that you think might be of interest? That might be of interest.
Oh yeah. I actually have two movies. But the first one, Shang-Chi, is definitely another movie that I would love for us to talk about. And another movie, Quiet Place Part 2.
Oh man. Oh, I forgot about A Quiet Place too. That's another great movie. But yeah, we'll. How about Shang-Chi? I want to talk about Shang-Chi. I mean.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I want to do Shang first.
Oh yeah, but
for the next one.
But now sadly we won't do this next week because I'll be on vacation for a little bit. Also, OU Texas is on. I'm a big football fan, so. But hopefully the week after that I won't be busy and we can start our chat on Shang-Chi, which is definitely not as deep of a movie as this one, but it is also very surprisingly good. So.
Yes.
Oh my god. Alright, so Green Knight. We've talked the crap out of this movie. But hopefully...
for about 2 hours.
Oh my god, yeah. We've talked about it for 2 hours now. But, hopefully more of these conversations will happen. If you guys enjoy this, please give us some love. I mean, this is a bit of a test run episode, but I might put it up because I'm But yeah, this has been Brit and Jacob the movies. Jacob, do you have any closing thoughts about the Green Knight or what we're gonna do or whatever? Say whatever you want.
Overall, thank you to everyone who has been watching us for the past 2 hours gushing over the Green Knight. But it was worth it because this is a phenomenal movie. As I said, might be my favorite movie of this year. It's just a very spellbinding and hypnotic film. It really sucks you in. All around, the performances, cinematography, storytelling, the visuals, all around really, it's absolutely great. My issues are very minor, which kept me from giving it 5 stars on Letterboxd. But overall, it's worth your time. If you're a big film buff, if you're a film lover, go check it out.
Oh, yeah. I think I like this. Oh, sorry. Continue what you were saying.
No, I'm finished.
Oh, I was about to say, I think I love this movie more now that we've talked about it.
I think so.
How about you? Are you like, oh man, this movie's so fucking great?
I think my overall thoughts on the movie I think my enjoyment has increased more, and I've only seen it once, and we're just talking about it. I'm like, yeah, I think my rating might go up a little bit.
But oh boy, this has been quite the experience. I wasn't expecting we talk 2 hours about this, but you know what? We do it for the love of the movies.
Yeah.
Oh my god. But yeah, so Green Knight, great film, one of the best of the year in my opinion. Hopefully we'll get as much as I enjoy just us. Hopefully we can get guests on here as well. Our buddy Ty, you might know him on YouTube from Dragon the Hound, might join us from time to time. I'm also hoping to get our good friend Carlton Bacon on here. Talk about something.
Oh yeah.
Because he also likes certain films, and I definitely want to hear his thoughts on them because he makes stuff more fun in his way.
He really does.
Oh man,
his opinions are definitely interesting.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to get him on here. Whenever what movie if we ever do Nightmare on Elm Street, hopefully we can do a spooky movie on this podcast since we're in October now. So hopefully we can do a spooky movie soon.
Oh yeah.
If we do night, because Carlton loves slashers, so maybe we can get him to do Nightmare on Elm Street if we ever do that. Wait, you've seen Nightmare on Elm Street? Have you seen the original one?
Yeah, the original.
Okay. I thought so. But yeah, so, yeah, alright, we've rambled on long enough, so it's been fun. Jacob, thanks for coming along. Hopefully we can continue this thing.
No problem. Thanks for having me. This has been really fun talking about the Green Knight.
Oh, yeah, and we're going to be talking about Shang-Chi next week. It's a either-or thing. Potato. Shang-Chi. Let's do... I'm actually excited talking about Shang-Chi. Now I'm already excited talking about Shang-Chi.
Me too.
But, yeah, I'm hungry, so I'm going to get off here. So, yeah. Again, thank you, Jacob, again. I appreciate you, man.
No problem.
Let's do it. Hopefully we can do this every weekend, and I'll post it up somewhere. Hopefully on YouTube, if this recording will do. Again, hopefully the conversation was good enough for the image, because I just was like, oh boy. So, yeah. Anyway, so, again, see you guys later. Jacob, it's fun. Everyone, let's do Shang-Chi next time.
Yes. Thanks to everyone for watching.